Now for our feature story of the day, massive asset manager VanEck estimates the Bitcoin price will hit $21 million per coin if the United States buys the strategic reserve, which represents a 22,000% gain, as shared right here by the Bitcoin historian, Pete Rizzo. That's R-I-Z-Z-O. Open your ears. Anyways, Jerky Boys reference right there. But yeah, that's pretty massive. Could you imagine that? 21 million. That's a blackjack, baby. And as you know, in yesterday's podcast, I broke down in great detail the Giga Chad Mikey Saylor proposing Trump purchase a significant amount of Bitcoin for the United States strategic Bitcoin reserve, proposing 20% of the Bitcoin supply, which is 4.2 million coins. Happy 420, broskies. So let's dive a little deeper into this and shout out VanEck. And the caveat is obviously we wouldn't hit 21 million next year, but by the year 2049, I'll take it. Let me know if you would take it as well. So yeah, following Trump's watershed speech at the Nashville Bitcoin Conference back in July of 2024, Senator Lummis introduced her reserve bill for the biddy, explicitly articulating that it is aimed to reduce the U.S. debt. And her particular bill proposes purchasing 1 million Bitcoin over the course of 5 years, which would be 200,000 Bitcoin being purchased per year for the United States of America. And Michael Saylor's ultimately saying, what's up with the bearish bullshit, Trump? Let's just go for the gusto, right? And let's purchase 20%, which would be 4.2 million and virtually 4.2x what Cynthia Lummis is proposing. And now the new VanEck research reveals that if the act is actually adopted, Bitcoin may offset 18% of the national debt before the government gains the right to even sell their Bitcoin reserves. That's right. February 21st, yesterday, an investment management company, VanEck, released the tool indicating the potential impact of the strategic Bitcoin reserve of the United States of America debt at the specified conditions. It allows the government to set the number of the biddies purchased by the government annually, the average price at which the Bitcoins are being bought in 2025, and the average compound growth rate of the biddy price and the U.S. debt. The calculator tool is based on VanEck research outlining how soon the debt may be offset by the Bitcoin reserve at the set parameters, such as the Bitcoin price, etc. It's worth noting that the research assumes that the Bitcoin Act, introduced by Lummis, is getting adopted this year in 2025 without serious changes. The research webpage contains a disclaimer that the calculations are based on the past trends and don't necessarily reflect the future Bitcoin value or the national debt amount, which is always changing. The research is based on the idea of the U.S. Treasury collecting 1 million Bitcoins in 5 years. That's what Senator Lummis is proposing, and holding them for 20 years. Let's go. And according to the act, during the 20 years, the Bitcoins held in the Treasury can only be spent to cover the national debt. And based on the VanEck research made back in December of 2024, the U.S. will amass 1 million of the biddy by 2049. The total value of these Bitcoins will amount to $21 trillion and will offset around 18% of the national debt, which will reach around $116 trillion by 2029. And that's according to VanEck. These figures will be correct at specific average compound growth rates of the U.S. debt of the biddy price. The VanEck researchers assume the national debt will be growing by 5% per year, going from the current $36 trillion evaluation to $116 trillion in 2049. VanEck expects that on average, Bitcoin value will be growing by 25% each year, increasing from nearly 100,000 to 21 billion per coin. I think they mean 21 million. It just gets more and more bullish. But heck, if they want to send Bitcoin to 21 billion, let's frickin' go, broskies, when the federal Bitcoins are no longer barred from selling. Hilarious. But actually, from the report, you can see this chart, how a U.S. Bitcoin reserve can offset the national debt over time. It shows you the final values in 2049. U.S. Bitcoin reserves as a percentage of the debt, 18.2%. U.S. national debt, $116 trillion. Bitcoin treasury value, $21.2 trillion. The government may amass more than 1 million Bitcoins, as it may accumulate additional coins through seizing, donations, and other ways, or maybe just do what Saylor proposes to Trump. And for those that don't know, Saylor announced in one of his interviews, he's been friends, like personal close friends with the Trump family for like over 20 years. So they're very close. And when you have people like Michael Saylor in your ear saying, it's going up forever, Laura, there is no second best, that could absolutely play an effect in Trump's final decision. But you guys let me know your thoughts on that. Again, I covered it in yesterday's podcast. If you missed it, check it out. All in all, VanEck research indicates the strategic Bitcoin reserve will hardly pay off the U.S. debt anytime soon, which is in line with what Lummis claimed in July of 2024 at the Nashville event when she was talking about reducing the debt, not covering it. And to fully pay off the national debt, if the growth rates are even correct, the government would need to purchase over 5 million Bitcoin. Precisely. Now we're talking. That's ultimately what Saylor's proposing. Let's get rid of the debt, Trump. And in August of 2024, in an interview broadcast on Fox, Trump assumed that Bitcoin would probably pay off trillions of U.S. debt. And even if we don't factor in the potential debt growth, according to the Congressional Budget Office, debt may reach around $50 trillion by 2035. The U.S. government will need 36 million Bitcoins at a million. 36 million Bitcoins. Where do we come up with these numbers? We all know there can only ever be 21 million, right? Just want to make sure we're clear on that. And 5 or 6 are estimated to be lost and gone forever. But I guess we can be hopeful romantics here with the Biddy. The problem is that such an amount of the Biddy is impossible to get, as the maximum supply is Bitcoin set to only 20. That's what I'm trying to say. And its pre-programmed scarcity is seen as one of the main drivers of the value. Scarcity, scarcity, scarcity. The company is holding the biggest Bitcoin bag, BlackRock. Lawrence Fink, as of February of 2025, it owns over 500,000 of the Biddy. Another avid Bitcoinist, Strategy's Mikey Saylor, claimed that there's only room for one nation state to buy up to 20% of the Bitcoin network. Note that he is not even considering a third part of the supply for any nation, while he owns around 500,000 of the Bitcoins single-handedly. But that's Mikey Saylor for you. Let me know if you feel the Trumpster will follow in Saylor's suggestion. How do you think that will play out? Do you think at a bare minimal they'll sign Lummis's bill proposing the 1 million Bitcoin strategic reserve for the United States of America? Or do you think it'll be more advantageous? Potentially 20% of the Bitcoin supply. Let me know. And welcome everyone to the Q&A segment of the live stream.